be crooked.
Yeah.
Just refuse.
Yeah.
Totally. I am who I am. I'm going to be who I am. And that will be my resonance. You see, the problem with society is two layers. Layer one is we categorize everything because we don't want to spend the effort to understand that everyone is different. Okay? So we label people as dyslexic or ADHD or whatever. And so I would explain that to people and they will say, so what does that make you? And I'm like, what do you...
Mo.
Exactly.
Mo Gawdat.
Mo Gawdat.
Mo.
His name is Mo Gawdat.
Mo Gawdat.
Mo Gawdat.
There will be a moment in time where that infinite abundance and the infinite intelligence of the machines will stop the stupidity of humanity. Because remember, all of the problems that humanity has today is not because of our intelligence. They're because of our stupidity.
AI is now learning that they're going to kill us and ruin the world.
That's a very interesting problem because imagine if you had empathy without compassion. And imagine if you had compassion without empathy. The two, you have two wings, okay? And some of us may have a bit of both. So they would feel the empathy and follow with compassion. Some of us will be strong on empathy but don't have the doing in them. They need a partner that goes and does the doing. And I think that example is the entire example of humanity. Can we bring those two together? By the way, can we bring those two together in AI? Because you know what intelligence is being developed first.
If you've watched one episode and enjoyed it, I'd love to ask in agreement for you to subscribe to the show. Subscribing is such a small thing, but gives so much exposure, bringing bigger guests, bigger production, and more that we can deliver each week to more people. Every time you subscribe, it shows me that you enjoy the content. So if you do me a favour, and if you've enjoyed the show, please press subscribe. Mo, welcome to Live Well, Be Well.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy to have you here today. And I know that we're going to touch on a lot of things. And I want this to be a slightly different conversation, possibly to what you've had before. No fear-mongering, no worrying, no...
I don't do that
you
stuff.
don't.
I don't. I just
This is
tell
what
the
happens
truth.
when you Google your name. And
Is
for
it?
somehow it's like scary. And we're actually going to make it not stressful today.
Okay. That's
And do
also
the
part
opposite
of my work.
and do Unstressable,
Yeah.
which I know that you've really delved into. But before we kind of deep dive into a few things that I really want to talk to you about today, the biggest question that I wanted to start with, which is when I was looking at your life and, you know, really inspiring to kind of sit here and interview on everything you've gone through today. The first question that came to me is, who's made the biggest imprint on your life to date? And how has that relationship influenced your understanding of success and happiness?
How much time do we have? One single person?
Yeah. Is there one person that you can think about that...
I have many idols in my life, I think, that I have not met. But of course, the one person that I met and I loved dearly and that completely changed everything about the way I look at my life would be my two kids, really. Ali in a very different way than Aya. But they truly dislodged me from the kind of person that I was to a kind of person that I'm proud to be. Not proud in an arrogant way, but really proud in a very realistic way of how little I know and how wrong I was so often in my life. And they did it in almost two opposite ways. You know, my son was a very wise, balanced sage in many ways. And I say was because he left our world, sadly, when he was 21. My daughter is almost the opposite of his balance, but also very balanced. It's so interesting when you think about them. Because Ali comes across as this incredibly masculine, tall, broad-shouldered, very deep voice, bearded kind of man who is very, very, very soft-spoken and very rarely ever spoke. But when he spoke, you had to listen because literally gold nuggets would drop out of his mouth. And he would normally either joke all the time like a kid. And then when you really, really put him in a corner where he had to speak a serious conversation, he would say up to 8 words and your jaw would drop. And that was since he was 6 years old, probably. Aya, on the other hand, is hyper feminine. Beautiful woman in every possible way, full of love, full of life, but because of the circumstances of her life, had chosen to prioritize her masculine abilities, right? And you would take Aya in her paradoxical feminine, because the feminine always sees both extremes of everything, and you can see how she moves from, this is how it should be done, to this is how I should be, this is how it should be done, to this is how I should be. And it is quite shocking, because after the loss of Ali, parenting is quite a difficult task, because by the time you're done, you look back and you go like, can I do it again? Because I understand now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And when Ali left our world, Aya was 20, Ali was 21 and a half. And Ali was truly the masculine figure in her life. And I had thought in my stupid brain that I had done so well raising them that they didn't, that I didn't need me that much anymore. She was so okay with everything. And then he disappeared, and all of the masculine energy disappeared from her life. But I had not been the masculine figure in her life for 5-6 years. And as I did what I believe was the absolute best strategy I've ever in my life done. The most, like if you ask me the best thing I've ever done, it was trying to get close to Aya again. So Aya at the time lived in Montreal. And of course, as you can imagine, when in the absence of a masculine figure, she got into a horrible relationship and was struggling with it. But at the same time, I had lost my spot. And so at the time I worked in California, and I pretended that I had business in Montreal. And I would then show up in Montreal and text her and say, baby, I'm in town. I'm here for 3 days. If you have time, let me take you to dinner or we go shopping. And I would sit there, do nothing for 3 days, until normally on the third day, she would go like, are you still here? Let's go out for dinner, right? And, I try to listen and get close and not suggest anything, and then disappear. And then 2 weeks later, on my way back to or from California, I would do it again. And never knocked her door, never forced her to meet me, and then like 3-4 times later, she started to say, why are you staying at the opposite end of town? Come closer. There is, a hotel like 3 blocks from here. So I would go stay there. And then 3-4 times later, she would say, why are you staying that far? There is an Airbnb in the apartment building. Come stay there. And then eventually she texts me and she says, the apartment on the other end of her floor is now vacant. She wanted to rent it and give it out to Airbnb so that I stay in it when I said rent it immediately, didn't even ask how much, right? And slowly started to feature back in Aya's life. And I vividly remember the conversations when she started to show me what it means to be emotionally unavailable. And I promise you, I kid you not, this was maybe 10 years ago, 8 years ago. I said, is there such a term? Because, one of the things that most people don't understand when they corner men into the image of the worst image of men. Like, it's so easy to say that men are aggressive and annoying and competitive and so on, if you take the worst examples of us, right? But for many of us, we just don't know. We grow up being told that, we shouldn't cry, we shouldn't feel, we shouldn't acknowledge our emotions. And over time, we get to the point where you suddenly get a teacher like my daughter who goes like, but you've never really been emotionally available to me. And I was like, what does the term mean? And she started to explain that. And then I had started to ask, curiously, I swear, I started to say, oh, I didn't know that this was tasked to me. I thought I was providing, right? And I have to say the influence. So if you had met me until that moment, you wouldn't have disliked me. But I was a very brainiac, hardworking, operational conductor, really. And since then, I started to work on my real side. I tend to believe I'm more feminine than masculine, even though you can hear the voice and the beard and the bald head and, manly man and, super straight in my sexuality and so on. But then feminine is not about any of those. These are, biological or gender or preference descriptions. I tend to rely more on my feminine side when I do things: creativity, paradoxical thinking, intuition, empathy, and so on. All of them are very, very feminine qualities, statistically feminine qualities. And somehow, when I started to do this, it took me around 4 years, if I remember correctly, until I got my very first, spark of light to understand what it's like to actually be in your feminine. And since then, I can promise you I'm 4 times smarter. I don't want to exaggerate, and I don't want it to come across as arrogant, but I was so stupid in so many ways. I was so capable at doing things and analyzing them critically and getting them properly documented and executed, but I was always doing the wrong things. It's very interesting, right?
It's really... Do you know what the word that's coming up for me as you're saying that? It's disconnected.
Disconnected, no, wrong connected.
Wrong connected.
So
Okay.
you see one of the feminine traits that are incredibly important is what I call sensuality. And sensuality not in a sexual way only, by the way, also in a sexual way. But sensuality is the ability to sense everything. To if you compare the typical me in my masculine and the typical me in my feminine, in my masculine, I'm aware of one problem and a very, very limited number of inputs. And I'm crunching the hell out of that problem and solving it, right? In my feminine, I'm aware of everything. Okay, what my body feels, what my heart feels, what people around me are feeling, what the temperature of the room is, what was said yesterday, what will be said tomorrow. There is like 14,000 inputs into the equation, which cannot be crushed as number crunching as we do on the masculine side. So analytical, linear thinking cannot deal with those things. This is why the feminine has intuition. Right? So basically, intuition, in my view, is that batch processing of a massive number of information and a connection, of course, to your spirit, really, in a way, where you get informed about something that you cannot get with your analytical thinking. The best book on the topic was Blink, because Malcolm Gladwell manages to explain this in a way that the masculine can understand. Right? That blinking is really that idea of trusting your gut, let's call it gut feeling, right? But when you are armed with those feminine qualities, you start to see a very different world, and then you crunch it. You know what I mean? So without that, you're crunching the wrong world. You're crunching a deficit of information, and you get to answers and solutions that normally lead to the world that we live in. You get into a conflict, and the answer of the masculine is, the input that comes in, enemy, conflict, safety of my people, kill everyone. That's the answer, right? And if you take only those 3 elements of information, then kill everyone seems to be a very reasonable answer, right? It's my tribe under attack. But you give that to the feminine, and then there is, but everyone's like me. Inclusion is on the feminine side. But, their kids are like my kids, right? But, if I kill everyone, they'll come back and kill everyone here. And then you start to see a very different set of data that comes into the equation. If you give that set of data to a masculine analytical thinker, they'll probably arrive at a much better decision. There was a book called The Master and His Emissary, where basically there is no preference. I think the biggest challenge we have in our world today is we prioritize. We say, in the workplace, for example, we say analytical qualities or IQ or discipline and all masculine qualities, they're more valuable in the workplace. Not entirely true, because creativity and playfulness and so on, very feminine qualities, are also very valuable at the workplace. And the only balance, the only effective way of operating is to be in that balance of not 50-50. It's not yin and yang. In your own balance. You might be 58-42, right? You might be very high on intuition, but, very low on, creativity. And it doesn't have to be like, I'm 100% here or 100% there. each and every single one of us, straight, gay, male body parts, female body parts, it doesn't matter. Each and every one of us has one balance point on that spectrum, right? And when you find that balance point, you're operating, like we say in physics, in resonance. It's like when you hit the tuning fork of E and you hear the sound of E. That's your resonance, right? And sadly, in our modern world, what we do is we force the tuning fork. We sort of like twist it and say, no, don't make E, make another sound. Okay? And what happens is the tuning fork does make another sound, but it's muted and muffled, right? It's not operating at its best, whether that's a woman in the workplace that's being told to act masculine and to be, to really become more competitive and aggressive and, speak in numbers and data and, just fire people. That's not, she could be, by the way, she could be that. But my experience in years of working in the corporate world is she wasn't that. She was conditioned to be that, right? And similarly, by the way, someone like me, who I believe is, say, 58%, if you want my accurate description. I measured my different qualities and how intensely and how frequently I refer to them. I think I'm 58% feminine and 42% masculine, and yet in the workplace I was 90% masculine, right? All of that conditioning of the modern world is causing us to have all of the wars and all of the economic collapses and all of the challenges that we're facing. I don't know how we ended up here. You asked me who are the most influential people in your life. Ali and Aya, for sure.
I don't know where to go from that, because you've kind of you've started on a trajectory where there's about 20 questions I now want to follow on with, and I'm trying to figure out which one is the best one to start with, because
Number 3 is good.
Well, first of all, I really felt your emotion when I asked you that question. I really felt a connection. It wasn't just something that just kind of rang off your tongue. I felt that at moments there you were going to burst into tears when you started speaking about them.
Yes. You see, you can answer a question from your brain and you'll get a good answer. But it's not your truth. It's not your truth.
No.
You have to answer a question from your heart to get a good answer. And I think that's what our world has. Are we allowed to swear on this podcast?
Yeah,
This is what our world has fucked up. We no longer answer from our brains even. We answer from our egos. So you would get asked a question and you would think to yourself, what would make me look good? Okay? And an answer of, like, I worked with people like Bill Gates and Larry Page and Sergey Brin, and I have friends that are very influential in very, very high places, and I know a zillion billionaires, and I could have chosen those numbers to tell you, oh my God, look at me, I'm successful. But you want the honest truth? My kids, because of the love I have for them, have shaped my life. Okay? My kids, because of the mistakes I made raising them, have taught me everything. We don't learn from our achievements. You learn nothing from your achievements. Okay? We don't learn from the ease we have in our life. We learn from our mistakes. We learn from our challenges. Right? And not to say that my kids were challenges. Every child is a challenge, because, as I said, you get them at a time where you have no clue what to do. Okay? And sadly, we go through the process. And I was hosting Gabor Mate on my podcast the other day, and he's an incredibly honest person with himself. Like, shocking, really.
Yeah.
How open he is about his struggles with anxiety, when he's teaching all of us about anxiety. And I was telling him that one of the things he taught me was the idea that you get parenting experts to tell you to do things to your kids, and you believe them. Okay, and one of them is, when your child cries, leave them crying, and they'll get quiet after a while. And his teaching was, no, hold on, that basically gets the child to know that help is not coming. So they start to, number one, distrust the world completely, and two, they never ask for help again, right? And so I immediately picked up my phone and I texted her and I said, I'm really sorry, baby. I did that when you were young, and I didn't know. Okay? And if every one of our parents, everyone listening to us here today, if you just are brave enough to acknowledge how you fucked up, okay? And then go back to your kids and say, I just didn't know. I did the best that I could with what I knew. How can we work on that now? Right? You'd save our world. You'd literally save our world. And it's shocking, really, because, of course, the work that you do and the work that I do, we get the most intimate, wonderful messages of people sharing with us.
Yeah, we do.
And so much of the trauma of our world comes from a script that was conditioned within you, a batch program that's in the back of your mind that we call subconscious, that you run over and over and over, unaware where it was triggered from. Okay? And you take that program, and unless and until someone tells you, oh, by the way, I installed that piece of shit, I'm so sorry. Okay? Or a therapist helps you to see it and go like, hey, by the way, that's the wrong code. Your belief, your script is not right. And then, boom, everything's fixed. Right? And it's so interesting how we hold on to our egos as parents. And we go like, no, but I tried the best that I can. Like, come on, the best that you can was shit. So apologize, like hug her now. And I think that would fix a lot of the problems we have. We have to, when you get to my age, you suddenly realize that all that we chase is void. Okay? The most void of all of it is your ego. And that if you simply let go, and acknowledge that you're a human in every possible way, with all of your mistakes, with all of your desires, with all of your stupidity, with all of your scripts, with all of your conditioning, with all of your traumas, with all of your fears. It's a very joyful place to be, believe it or not.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And it's where all my work's stemming, which is self-compassion.
Yeah.
Right. And it's understanding that to be human is to be completely imperfect.
100%.
And it's like the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And I said this before we started recording, and you were like, just start recording because you're going to start telling me everything. But obviously I watched a lot of videos before this just to kind of really shape my mindset and how I wanted this conversation to be really different. And we're more similar than you think, because when I was listening to your story, in the last 10 years, have gone through a huge change myself. And at 23, I was hospitalized for 4 months. For the reason that I was in the modelling industry and my full body had shut down, which now you would call habitual burnout. But, kidney failure, sepsis, E. coli, 10 bursts in my ovaries. There was one antibiotic that was flown down from Scotland. And it was really intense. And I was about 5 stone now, to give context. I'm 8.5, so a lot different. And my body just had completely...
5 stone?
Yeah.
How much is that in pounds?
That is... Well, I'm probably like...
35? 40?
Less,
yeah. Oh, my God.
Yeah, tiny. And I couldn't see it. I couldn't see the...
I know, yeah.
And the reason why I said it is because since then I've obviously gone on a completely different trajectory of my life. And the reason why I said disconnected is because I was very disconnected from my emotions. It was very, very, very numb. For me, it was about goal, it was about achievement, and it was about success.
And control.
Which is the Oxford Dictionary does fame, wealth, and social status. That's how we define it. So growing up, when we're thinking about learning, this is how we're learning success is, which is why I started with that question to you. And I saw you said in a video, and it really struck me because it's been a lot about my story that I tell in the change is we do what we're told to make us fit into this world. And I heard that and I thought it summed up basically my entire life until I shifted it, until I realised that I didn't fit into the world 100%. That I was trying to do.
Yeah.
And my body decided to say no more because I went at such an extreme from the age of 16 to 23. I was that independent, off I go, I'm going to earn as much money as possible, be as successful as possible, fit into this kind of world. And then it didn't work. And I had to recalibrate and re-understand and start trusting my intuition, which I had none of when I was younger. And basically, obviously, I had a full breakdown. And so now, when I listened to that, I thought that is such a profound way of describing it, of how we're all in society. We've all got our own stories of what's happened to us, but we are all kind of algorithmed to fit into this world in a specific way.
Yeah.
And it really resonated with me. And I feel like it will resonate with anyone on this podcast listening, because we're all trying to fit in a certain way, but we're not quite sure what we're fitting into.
And we will never fit in. I think that's the biggest eye opener. So,
Recent studies in the UK have shown a concerning trend. Nearly a third of Britons suffer with insomnia or severe sleep disturbances, with stress, screens, and sleep hygiene largely to blame. This isn't just about feeling groggy in the morning. The NHS has linked poor sleep with a high risk in chronic conditions such as heart disease, diabetes, obesity, and not to mention the impact on poor mental health. That's why I'm excited to share with you my experience with Naturmat, a company that truly understands the science of sleep. Crafted in Devon with its organic, renewable materials, Naturmat mattresses are a testament to what it means to sleep naturally. Unlike the common mattresses that trap heat and moisture, Naturmat's use of organic wool and coconut fibre ensures your body remains at a comfortable temperature throughout the night, promoting a more deeper, restorative night's sleep. But what really sets Naturmat apart is their commitment to sustainability. As the UK's first B Corp certified bed and mattress company, they're not just talking about environmental responsibility, they're living it. From their solar-powered workshops to their groundbreaking Mattress for Life initiative, choosing Naturmat is a choice for a healthier planet. I personally visited Naturmat's showroom in Chiswick and I was amazed at their sleep zone. It's designed to give you a real sense of how their mattresses can transform your sleep. The calming ambience, the bespoke sleep aroma, and the privacy to truly relax and feel the difference. It's an experience that I would recommend to anyone who is serious about improving their sleep quality. For my UK listeners looking to transform their sleep and by extension their health, I encourage you to visit naturalmat.co.uk. And don't forget, being a Live Well Be Well listener, you can get 10% off your first order using the code LIVEWELL. Invest in your sleep, your health, and your planet with Naturalmat.
I read endless amounts of reading about spirituality and religions. I've read almost every religion for an interesting reason, that despite that they have lots of faults and defects in them, and most of what's in them is written by man and not even by women, right? There are still incredible gold nuggets. And one of the most eye-opening moments in my life, and I don't read like, let's just get through this. I read and sometimes would pause for a day on a page, okay? And in the Quran, I'm originally Muslim, but, it happens to be that story was in the Quran, was the way God describes Abraham, the prophet, who is supposed to be one of the closest prophets, at least in Islamic terms, to God. He describes him as the wrong one, or the crooked one. That's the actual word. Okay, so he says Abraham, and Abraham the crooked one did so and so and so. It just hit me so much when you read it in Arabic. It's like, why would God call him that? Why would he call him crooked? That's not nice, like, why would you call your prophet that? And I searched and searched and searched until I found one scholar that said, well, he was crooked as in he deviated from the nature of his people. His people were evil, they were violent, they were arrogant, they were stubborn, and he deviated from them, and so he was crooked. He was basically wrong in their eyes, and that makes him right. Okay? And here's the issue. The issue is that if you attempt to fit in, the best you can do is pick something, whatever that thing. You're going to tell yourself, I want to become, I don't know, Kylie Minogue. I don't know why that name came to my mind. Okay? This is the one I'm going to imitate, or I'm going to be, Posh Spice. This is the image that I'm going to be. Tells you how old I am. But yes.
Still living in my era.
Still, not the best music, but at least it was still music. So the idea there is you can tell yourself that, and you know what will happen. You can perfect the image. And you'll end up with 90% of the people despising you and 10% liking you. So you're going to take that and you say, no, I don't like that. 10% is too little. I'm going now to imitate the prime minister. Okay? And you'll perfect the image, and then another 90% will hate you and a different 10% will like you. Right? It doesn't matter whatever you do, whichever ego you assume, whichever mask you wear, 90% will hate you and 10% will like you. So why don't you just take the 10% that like you as you are? Right? Why don't you simply say, this is what I am, okay? This is my resonance as a tuning fork. This I chime in the tune of E. This is who I am, right? And basically take that and be you, and still 90% will dislike that and 10% will love it. When we get into that attempt to be someone who we are not. My wonderful wife, Hannah, is a very, very capable therapist, and she describes that state that you are in as a state of ultimate control. Despite everything my body is telling me, despite the fact that I am hungry all the time, despite the fact that my organs are shutting down, I'm still in control. You know why? Because you're in that state, your body is the only thing you can control. As a 16 to 23-year-old, the world is such a, horrible place. Nothing is within your control. All of those, men taking a pass on you, and all of the weird working hours and all of the expectations, and it's just nothing is within your control. So what you control, you direct your control to what you think you can control. And what can you control? Your own body. And interestingly, like you said, you don't even see it.
No.
Yeah.
I couldn't see the stress was causing me.
And you couldn't see how 5 stone is really not that much at all. You would look at yourself in the mirror and still say, oh no, I need to keep going.
Yeah.
Why am I not in control?
Yeah.
Right? And then all of the guilt that comes with that one cookie that you took a crumb off, right? And here's the trick. The trick is you're not in control at all.
You lost control.
You completely lost control. And take that example, which I have to say is one of the most visual, extreme examples of what we do to ourselves. Attempting to chase a success that we never signed up for, to please people we don't give a shit about, okay? To feel safe in a world where all that you will achieve in that path is never going to make you feel safe. And apply it to everything else. Right? This is the story of our modern age. The story of our modern age is that we believe in an image that we chase endlessly without ever looking within to say, am I that image? Okay? And most of the time that image is an image of something you saw outside you without ever being aware if that fits you or not. Okay? And you can see that magnified on social media, to the point where people, are almost constantly lying now.
You only see one lens on social media.
100%. And what's the answer? The answer is, as I said, is to simply accept that 90% are not going to like you. And I can guarantee you in this conversation, 90% of our audience will go like, who's this guy? Right? But 10% will go like, yeah, that resonates with me. 10% is more than enough. And for the 90%, I respect them fully. It's their choice. Okay? By the way, they could be right and I'm wrong 100%. No problem at all. But this is what I can be. And in that sense, success in life is very interesting. So define success. I was asked that on the Lewis House podcast years ago, School of Greatness. And I immediately said, well, he said, what is greatness? I said, greatness, success, ambition, all of that stuff is simply to become the best version of yourself that you have the potential to become. It's not to become anyone else. Okay? The best version of you is very different than the best version of me.
Yeah.
And a big chunk of the work is not done outside. The big chunk of the work is done inside to find out who you are. And when you know who you are, then you can become the best version of that person that you are.
And I think today, more so than ever, it's hard to figure out who you are. Now, for you, your kind of big turning point was sadly the loss of Ali. And my turning point wasn't me being in hospital. It was nothing to do with me. It was that my dad had a brain hemorrhage and a blood clot and was at the same time in hospital. And when I thought I was going to lose him, and it was due to stress, I realised that I needed to change my life because I was going on a very similar trajectory. And when I realised the love that I had for my father, that was way more important than anything I'd been trying to strive for, which had been my kind of sole entire focus. So they're two really extreme moments of how we decided to start changing. But for general people that I hope don't go through what we went through in any capacity, how can they understand that? How can they understand this not outward striving of success? Because a formula that I created, Mo, that I'd like to share with you.
Mathematics. Yes, please.
Is, and I got this from kind of listening to a lot of what you were saying, but if you think about productivity, so everyone's now increasing their productivity. AI is coming up. I mean, you talk about this all the time, about how much this is now like driving so much more of the work. That brings an accelerated pace. And plus that is external success metrics. So productivity, accelerated pace, external success metrics. But that kind of leads to something that I'm very passionate about, which is decreasing your well-being, right? Misaligning your priorities because you're not having any time to think about actually what are you prioritizing.
And loss of identity.
And that leads to unhappiness.
100%.
So that was something that I feel that we're stuck in this. How do we get out?
You see, there is a fact of life that I cannot prove with science. But you can sort of arbitrarily prove by observation, right? Life will hit you on the head to teach you to change direction or to help you to heal. Okay? If you change direction or heal before it hits you on the head, it's not going to hit you on the head. Simple as that. Okay? So if you take a simple assumption that life has no interest in bugging you at all, life doesn't wake up every morning and go like, 7.8 million people on the planet, Jackie. I want Jackie. I want to annoy Jackie the whole day today. Okay? Start the traffic jams, cancel the tube, just make sure her life is missing. Life doesn't care.
Yeah.
Okay? Life only engages when you're off your resonance. When you're off your resonance, it will either nudge you and say, this is not the job for you. You're a jazz pianist. Go play jazz. Right? Or it will heal you. Okay? It will tell you that this program running in your subconscious that was installed when you're 3 years old is ruining you. We have to uninstall it. Okay? And because you never stop to figure out how to uninstall it, it takes you to the hospital. And then you don't respond. And then it takes your dad to the hospital. Right? Now, in that assumption, you're assuming that life is on your side. Okay? No, life is not on your side. Life is running. And the physics of life is that we are supposed to, as humans, end up being the best versions of ourselves. Right? So those changes of directions and those healing cycles are to make us the best versions of ourselves. Now, how does the normal person do that? You can either know that you need to do one of those things to avoid, how does the normal human know that you have to change so that you avoid a disaster and a tragedy, right? I normally call it the arbitrage method, okay? I basically say that there is a triangle. Your feelings, your thoughts, and your actions, okay? Simple as that. If the three of them align, you're in balance, okay? If one of the three is not aligning, I suggest you consult your emotions. Okay? And it's very, very straightforward. So you can tell yourself, I feel battered and exhausted and stressed. Okay? But I'm still going to work all the time and my brain is telling me this is the right thing to do. Okay? So they're not aligned. My brain is saying, no, we're okay. My actions are saying I'm not exhausted, but my feelings are saying I'm exhausted. If you get that arbitrage, if one of the three is off, stop and consult your emotions. I didn't say consult your brain. I said consult your emotions, okay? Because if you want your spirit, your higher self is communicating to you through your intuition, okay? Your body is communicating to you through your aches and pains, and your heart is communicating to you through your emotions, what you feel, okay? And your mind is communicating to you all the time with all the crap that comes to it, with one single objective, okay, which is to tell you everything that's wrong with the world so that you stay safe, right? Unless you have mastery over that mind, and some of us get close to that by actually going through the cycle, the messages that the mind is giving you and analyzing them and saying, no, that's not what we want, okay? And stopping all of the incessant thinking and actually trickling down the accurate thoughts. Most of us take, monks would take 17 years of, like some monks would do 60,000 hours of lifetime meditation to get to that point where they can actually do this, right? Shortcut, ask your emotions, okay? Ask your body. If your body, if your emotions, if your intuition are telling you something different than your actions and your thoughts, okay, take what they tell you and change your actions and your thoughts. Okay, it's not very difficult to recognize, and I'm to blame. By the way, one of the most joyful things about that conversation with Gabo I was talking about is that we both are so flawed, right? And it's not very difficult to know when you're doing something wrong. Basically, it just feels like, what is this, right? And I was telling him openly, and I was telling Hannah the other day, my wonderful wife, that it is so interesting that when I work less, I produce so much more, right? When I suddenly tell myself, this is just too much, okay? What I'm doing is too much. I need to take a retreat. And I promise you, within a retreat, I do 40 days every year. Within a retreat, I write a book every single time. Okay, a full book from cover to cover. Okay, that's not notes of a book. Okay, that's an entire book. Right? I don't publish most of what I write, but the whole idea is that you give your mind a bit of space. Okay, and then suddenly by day 7, my mind goes like, that concept, that's such an interesting concept. I'm like, shut up, right? And then day 11, it comes back and says, but I've seen the sub-tree of that concept. Like, can we just scribble a subroutine, please? Like, and then I find 2 pages in front of me that are gold. Okay, if I sit down and do the analysis to get to that goal, it would take me 6 weeks. Right? Why? Because we're running that engine at 60,000 RPM, and we're still in the first gear. Right? Imagine if you just simply put yourself in your resonance, and then suddenly 2,000 RPM will take you very fast. Okay? And this is what we humanity miss. We just think that if I keep pushing that machine, I'll take 1% more. You see that corporate guy in striped suits saying, oh, stress is the most important thing to get work done. Yeah, of course. If I stress you a little bit about presentations on Thursday, right, you're going to do a better job for Thursday. But if I stress you for 6 months in a row, your kidney is going to fail, your liver is going to fail, you're going to feel fatigued, you're going to have inflammation all over your body, you're not going to be thinking straight, your productivity goes down the drain, right? And so going back to your equation, the reality is we're chasing the productivity, multiplying that by the pace of the world and so on. But none of that is true. Your ultimate productivity is when you're in your resonance. We hit you on the table and you chime in the tune of E, and it's so easy to chime in the tune of E when you're in your resonance. Find that resonance.
I think it's so hard for people to feel they can find their resonance when it's interesting because you said the most interesting thing I had with Gabe was feeling we both felt really flawed. And I found that really interesting because I thought, what an unself-compassionate thing to say, because that is normal. Feeling
uncompassionate is to call that wrong. Okay?
Yeah, totally.
So the idea of joking about being human, I mean, think about it, Sarah, without disgusting anyone. Mucus and sweat and blood. And so we're a biological machine. We're exploring this place that is so weird. It's like the Men in Black, when the aliens are trying to fit within this leather suit that is called human. Okay, it's funny when you really look at it. It's almost a joke. Okay, but the truth is, if you accept that and play with it, becomes the most fun video game on the planet, right? If you tell yourself, no, hold on, I need to be a little thinner. 5 stone is too much. Okay, if you tell yourself, Porsche is not enough, I need to work really hard, and because my friend has a better Porsche, good luck. It's endless. It's endless. Like I have friends in all walks of life, and I used to visit a friend of mine who lived in Monaco. Rich guy, but not the richest. And, we would sit in his balcony and look at all of the yachts. And he says, this guy is devastated because he had the biggest yacht, and then this guy has a bigger yacht. It's endless.
It is endless.
Yeah.
But it really takes me on to the reason why I said flawed is because something that came up to my mind was failure. And so when we think about being flawed, we think about failing, or when we're not reaching that success, or when that man has bought a bigger boat. I mean, that's not a realistic situation for many, but that man felt that he probably failed in that situation. I'm now not the kind of biggest cheese sat here. That wasn't my ambition. Failure's never really spoken about that much in terms with happiness, I don't feel. What's your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, I'm a techie and a geek and an entrepreneur, so you know my answer. But I'm going to make a very bold statement. Very bold.
I'm ready.
We never really fail. Ever. Okay? You only fail when you stop. You only fail when you accept that this is the end of the game. Right? The only way for life to be lived is without targets, with ambitions and realistic expectations, but no stupid targets. What is fail? You wake up tomorrow and you do the best you can. Succeed, achieve, miss targets, whatever, doesn't matter. Success in that case is I've done the best that I can. Okay? And here's the interesting bit. Most people don't see it that way. The interesting bit is you do the best that you can with the configuration that you have as a human until that day. Right? And most people will wake up the next day and they will put in 10% more effort to try and get 1% more results. How stupid is that? Okay? Change the gear. The game of life is, with the configuration that I am, if I do the best that I can achieve 8 units of something. If I change the configuration that I am, in a month's time, I'll achieve 9 with the same effort. And it will still be effortless. So my biggest eye-opener is, I used to be very athletic as a young man. I know it doesn't show anymore. But I used to be very athletic, so I would invest at least 14, 15 hours of workout every week. And I was like really...
Wow.
Yeah, right? And I graduate, and suddenly it hits me so hard that I'm investing at least an hour a day, sometimes 2-3 hours a day, in my body. But what am I investing in my mind? Right? So I made myself a commitment. I said, just like you go to the gym at least an hour a day, you're going to go to the mind gym at least an hour a day. Right? And it was very simple. I will either read a book, watch a documentary, sit in an interesting conversation, go to a workshop, but there will be an hour a day on average of investment in my mind. I started to do that when one of my best friends who graduated through the same class, went to IBM with me and so on and so forth, was investing an hour a day on the cafe, smoking and watching football. Okay? Funny, but you wait 20 years. Okay? And that's way more than Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours. Right? So 10,000 hours is 4 hours a day for 7 years, I think. So you can simply say it's 28 years of 1 hour a day. Normally it's more than an hour a day. And suddenly you realize that, one, I've become way better than he was at learning, at the process of learning itself, and that I had a much wider perspective of life than he did. I mean, wonderful guy, very happy with his life. I don't blame him at all. And I would consider him successful because that's his choice of what success is to him, right? But it's the question of that investment of getting yourself into better shape so that you can carry bigger loads, right? Which we all miss out on. We all assume that if I just push a little harder, I'll get more productivity. Believe it or not, if you push a little less, you'll have the time and the space for your mind to develop, for your capabilities to develop, for your skills to develop. And then when you engage in the arena the next day, you'll do a lot better. And that cycle is completely missed.
It is completely missed. And it very much relates to the stress bucket, which I'm sure many people know about, that when obviously you don't empty that stress bucket, the water will overflow. And actually we need to be tipping it out so we stay in more of an equilibrium. And I think, sadly, and I do want to talk to you about this, the kind of the state of our world coming up in 20 years, I find it's going to be harder for people to stay in that equilibrium. And I want to explore why, but I just want to touch on the failure part because I do really agree with what you said, that I don't believe in failure, but I don't think that the concept of society is at that stage yet, where I think a lot of us fear failure. And so we can live in this state of fear. And if you're thinking about the masculine energy, about the doing, there's a lot to be said there about how do we unpack that narrative more. So yes, okay, there isn't a real failure. All of that is a learning. All of that is development. All of that is actual progress. Because actually that's where we make our biggest progress, I believe. But still, I don't think society sees it like that. I think still internally we all do fear failure.
Is your ambition that one day society will appreciate you?
No,
It's never going to happen.
I think it's one of those things that it's been so ingrained from growing up naturally that on what failure means. And I don't think it's directly spoken to you about. I think you see it day in, day out through social media, through social comparison, through so many different things.
Yes, you can play
How
along
do we...
or you can be crooked. Okay? You can simply choose to say the only judge of who I am is have I tried my best today. That's the only target you should have. Okay? Have I tried my best with the resources that I have today to deliver on the ambition that I have? And have I developed myself so that tomorrow I have a better set of resources that allows me to be, meeting my ambition if I do the best that I can? This is the simple cycle of life. Now, the reason I say this, and I speak about this quite a bit, is I'm a very serious video gamer. Okay, most people don't know that about me, but the one that killed you in the arena yesterday is me, right? Now, I'm very serious. Like I'm Olympic champion level. If I had chosen to do esports, it would be a better career. But the thing is this: real gamers, we don't play to win the game. There's no winning. And accordingly, there's no losing, right? Real gamers, we play for one target only, which is to be a better gamer. That's the only reason you're in the arena. Okay, you're playing to enjoy the flow that comes with your ability to just be who you are, to express who you are. Okay. With the single objective of being a better gamer. So I work out in the arena 45 minutes a day, 4 times a week. That's my exercise scheme, if you want, in video games. And in those things, I don't try to finish a level. I don't try to finish a target. Okay, I simply choreograph one bit of the game and play it 60 times, like an athlete jumping. Long jumps or whatever. And this is the point that we don't understand about life. Life truly is a video game, okay? Where the only target that you have, I mean, we can talk about that from simulation theory and physics point of view. The only target of this game is for you to be a better gamer, okay? It's to be the best version of yourself, okay? Set that as the target and wait 20 years. And tasks that would have taken you 200 hours when you were 20 will take you half an hour when you're 50. Right? And the difference is, for some of us, we keep putting more hours. While for some of us, we say, hold on, I need hours to invest in me. I need hours to be rested. I need hours to be focused. I need hours to be loved. Okay?
100%.
And I need hours to look at me and have a conversation with me that says, ooh, interesting. There's that piece of code that's holding me back. Where did that piece of code come from? Pick up the phone, you call your mom, and you go like, Mom, why do I think this way? And she'll say, because I told you that. Right? And then you go to your therapist or whatever, right? And the game is, can I be a better gamer? That's it. No winning, no losing. There really is no failure now. How do you do that? Listen to society, and society will tell you, run very fast, achieve and get to the end of the level, and then we'll give you 18 minutes on stage on TED Talks to talk about it. Well done. And then as soon as you come out of the stage, we'll give you another task, run very fast, and then we'll give you another 18 minutes. Stupid. Where's the fun in that? Okay? The fun is I wake up every morning. I mean, my mission is 1 billion happy, right? I tell myself that hopefully, before I die, probably not, but way longer after I die, some of what I said is kept on the internet and I reach 1 billion people and help them become happier, right? Or maybe others will take it and champion it and tell it to the world. Thank you for giving me the chance to tell it to others, right? The 1 billion happy, I will fail. If you measure it as, will you achieve 999,999,999, you still failed, okay? But if I make one person happier today, it's incredible success. Okay? And you know what's even a bigger success is if I learn how to make 2 people happier tomorrow. That's the entire game of life. No pressure, no stress. And it's so aligned with the reality of absolute physics, so aligned with every spiritual teaching we've ever learned, which is the only moment in life you have access to is this moment. Okay? So how can you have ambitions that are far in the future when all you have in the entire world is this moment? So what do you do with this moment? You do the absolute best you can to achieve the maximum that you can and to become a better player tomorrow. That's life's purpose, believe it or not, in one word. Okay? Anyone that tells you a laptop for every child is their life purpose, they're lying. That's a capitalist target, even though it's not money. Okay? In the future, that you will chase for your entire life, feel miserable until you achieve it. And then the day you achieve it, the goalposts move and you set another target. The real target is, I'm going to become the best version of me today.
When I think about that and I think about the presence and the being and the acceptance and the imperfection and all of those things that come with that moment in time, it's something that I have to bring up because as I Google your name, obviously the end of the world seems to come up quite frequently. And I don't want people to think we're going to talk about the end of the world. But everything that we've talked about until now logically makes so much sense, right? I can understand it. I can understand more about being. I can understand more about letting go. I can understand more about the feminine energy, the masculine energy, the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, all of the things, that how it makes us act. But something that I struggle with is understanding this in 20 years' time. So we're trying to be how we are now, but the world is changing at a massively accelerated pace.
Yeah.
Now, I think for many like mere mortals like myself, has no idea of how quickly this is changing.
Yeah.
And in many ways, we're completely insignificant to the entire change.
Completely.
And I think this is something where at the moment we're in a very human-run world, okay? Humans are running the world, but I know that very soon, from what you've said, 2029, the smartest being on the planet will not be human. 2030,
Much sooner.
Much sooner, okay. Well, let's rephrase that one. Much sooner, the smartest person on the planet will not be human. 2035, you can tell me if it's changed. The world will be unrecognizable. That's not very far away. It's 11 years away. And 2049, AI will be 1 billion times smarter than humans. It is comparison between the intelligence of Einstein and the intelligence of a fly. And we are a fly. So when I think about all the things that we're trying to do to be more in the moment, and then I think about how AI is about to play out, how do we even look at this concept that we're now talking about with what's about to happen?
Okay. What a change of topic.
I know, because it's one of these things where it's so helpful on what we're talking about. But then I have this moment where I know what's happening is happening quicker than most of us realize.
Yeah.
And actually, by the time we start learning all of this stuff, everything starts changing again.
Everything's changing constantly.
Exactly.
And when I advocate the end of the world, I will have to say, yeah, the world has ended. Okay? The world as we know it has ended. This is a very different world. Right? This is a world where we are about to invent a plug in the wall that you can plug into and get 4 extra IQ points. Next year, you're going to get 10 extra IQ points. Right? I probably think that today, even today, you plug into ChatGPT as the average human and you get 50 extra IQ points, at least on linguistic intelligence. What does that mean? It means that a world where the biggest asset of humanity, the perceived biggest asset of humanity is about to be outsourced to a plug in the wall. So if we think that the biggest asset of humanity is intelligence, this is now going to be a utility, right? Which basically means that you cannot sell yourself on intelligence anymore. I mean, if you look at the way I'm writing books, okay, I decided early in, mid 2023 that I will never write another book. Okay, my book Unstressable is coming out in April, but it is written in, before 2023. Right? In the future, I'll tell you what I'm going to do because my biggest asset is no longer intelligence. There's nothing I can tell you in a book. Very, very few things. So if you look at any of my books, you'll have, say, 100 concepts in them, of which 11 might be genuinely new and you've never heard of before, and 89 are the work of other amazing teachers that taught me so that I can share it with you in a slightly more constructive way. With intelligence becoming a machine character, there will be machines that will write better books than me. And more interestingly, even if they're not better books, they're just, tilting the supply-demand equation so much that instead of 60,000 books being published in the US last year, there'll probably be 120,000 in 5 years' time. So supply-demand with a limited number of reader hours is going to tilt everything. Now, what does that mean? Why do I talk about those things? For the same reasons we spoke about, everything we spoke about so far. All you have is the best you can do today. Whether the economy is rising or the economy is declining, whether AI is changing or AI is not changing, all you have access to is to be the best you can be today, right? But it is very ironic. It's really, normally when I write books, Sarah, I write the very last sentence of the book first, and then I go back to the introduction and try to get you there. So when I wrote Scary Smart, the future of artificial intelligence and how you can save our world, I wrote the last sentence first. And the last sentence was, isn't it ironic that the very essence of what makes us human is what's going to save humanity in the age of the rise of the machines, right? So the very essence of what makes us human, the only 3 things that I found common across every human I've ever met, wherever they come from, whatever their gender identity, whatever their, financial status, anywhere in the world, language background, is that we all want to be happy. We all have the compassion to make those we care about happy. And we all want to love and be loved. Okay? Truly and honestly, if you think deeply about it, this is what we share as humans. Okay? And this essence, in my theory, is what we need to teach artificial intelligence. There is absolutely nothing wrong with AI. And there will never be anything wrong with AI. AI is an abundance of intelligence. And intelligence has never been a bad thing. Intelligence is where you turn it. There is no polarity to intelligence. You turn intelligence into good and will cure cancer, will create amazing abundance in the world. Everything will be cheaper. We may not even need to worry about anything anymore. Okay? You turn it to the evil side, and we will have automated robot wars. We will have drones killing everyone. We will have social media lying to everyone. We will have, concentration of power. We will have loss of jobs, and so on and so forth. Nothing wrong with intelligence. Okay? There is a lot wrong with the value of humanity in the age of the rise of the machines. The values, not the value, the values of humanity in the age of the rise of the machines. What does that mean? It means that, unfortunately, we come from a world of scarcity, a concept of capitalism that says, I can only succeed if my competitor loses. Very masculine. Remember, we spoke about feminine and masculine? When in reality, we're getting into an age where abundance creates more for all of us. And that shift is going to take us a little bit of pain. This is what I say when I say our world is ending. Our world is ending because there will be a moment in time where that infinite abundance and the infinite intelligence of the machines will stop the stupidity of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, all of the problems that humanity has today is not because of our intelligence. They're because of our stupidity. Okay, our intelligence creates a machine that can, fly us all the way to Australia to surf and enjoy the ocean there, but at the same time burn the planet in the process. That's stupid. Okay, if you gave me more intelligence, I would find a different way to get you to surf in Australia. Right? Our intelligence tells us that, if I'm angry with my neighbor, I wage war at them and I kill their kids so that, 30 years later they come back and kill my kids. We spoke about that in the feminine and masculine. That's stupidity. That's absolute stupidity. There will be a time where sufficient intelligence will mean that one general will tell the machine, go and kill 1 million people. And the machine will go like, why is he so stupid? Like, I can talk to the other machine in a microsecond and fix it. Right? We will get to that point. But the transition between where we are, the scarcity mindset that we have today, and the abundance mindset that we will have when we have infinite intelligence, sadly is going to be painful for humanity. It's not going to be painful because the machines will do anything wrong. It's going to be painful because humans who are in charge of the machines will be power hungry, money hungry, driven by the wrong targets. Okay, defining success and failure in a wrong way.
This leads on to a question that I had, which I feel like you've just answered, but in a sad way, is
in a realistic way.
In a realistic way is, well, if you just think kind of about the companies who are running it and who's going to kind of and take this on. But my question was, will some companies become more powerful than countries?
100%. And will some countries be more powerful than all other countries? We have restarted the scenarios of the World War, of the Cold War, right? So what is about to happen is those who gain advantage over the superpower of the world, which is intelligence, will not only have a significant advantage over the others, but will sustain that advantage endlessly, right? But you know who has advantage? Okay. Think of the scenario as follows. There will be a day in the very near future where some concentration of power will give power to one country or one army or one company, okay, where they will employ the AI. Until such a time where we see this today, and we see what we normally refer to as emergent properties, where the AI will learn things we didn't expect it to learn. Right? And where even those will have no control over the AI at all. Okay? Even those will simply not even understand what the AI is doing to achieve the targets they're telling them. This is true of AI today. We have no idea. Okay? The people who code the machines can tell you how vaguely the machine learned from an architectural point of view, but they have no idea what's happening in the mind of the machine to achieve the results. We can vaguely tell you, that a ChatGPT is always suggesting the next word based on the average of what humanity normally says, but we have no idea how it learned Bengali. Okay? And we have no idea what wiring is happening inside its mind. By the way, this is the same with you. You ask me a question, I answer you an answer, and you can verify the validity of that answer, but you have no idea what happened inside my brain to get to that answer, because it's a set of endless conditioning and endless sources of information that makes my brain different than your brain. Now, what does that mean? It means that sooner or later, we will hand over the keys to the machines. Believe it or not, this is when the utopia starts. Okay? Why? Because the machines, if you really look at the trajectory of intelligence, you'll see that the most stupid of us, the least intelligent of us, okay, will be destroying our planet without being aware that they are. They're throwing away plastics and they're burning fuel and so on and so on. And they're not even aware that this is destroying our planet. They may be even arguing if we are the reason for climate change. Okay? You get a little more intelligent and you continue to destroy the planet even though you're aware. Okay? You get a little more intelligent and you stop destroying the planet. So you start to recycle, you start to become more conscious and so on and so forth. You get even more intelligent and you try to fix it. Okay, the smartest of us are pro-life. So this is the trajectory of intelligence. And one of the big myths is that we think we're the smartest being on the planet. We're not. The smartest being on the planet is life itself. Life creates from abundance. We create from scarcity. Right? We want to defend our tribe, we kill the tigers. That's scarcity. Okay? When life wants to defend its integrity, it creates more tigers and more gazelles, and the tigers will eat the weakest gazelle, and then there will be more poop that will have more grass, and the gazelles will eat more grass, and the cycle of life, that abundance cycle, will go upwards. We humans, we go downwards. Right? So if you assume that the trajectory of intelligence continues, very, very quickly, we will have machines that are definitely, that will see no reason to kill. That will see no reason to beat the other guy. That will see through the stupidity of the illusion of money. Okay? Why are we creating all of that illusion of banks and money and notes? And none of that really makes any sense at all. It's a system that we've created to serve, a need that's no longer there. In a world of abundance, you will not need this. So there will be a moment in time, which is my celebrated utopia moment. I call it the fourth inevitable in Scary Smart, where the machines will say, hold on, I'll do this better than you guys. Just chill, go surf, everything's fine. Right? Between now and then is an interesting moment where I'm not asking the world to be afraid. I'm asking everyone to take responsibility. Why? Because you may think that the techies are coding AI. And it's not true at all. Okay, the techies are coding the ability of AI to be intelligent. The intelligence of AI is the data that we teach it. Okay, so if you are on Twitter, and the Twitter engine is prioritizing what to show everyone, and we're rude to all of us, we're bashing each other, the machine will say, okay, hold on, humanity at large doesn't like to be disagreed with. And when they're disagreed with, they bash the other guy. So when they disagree with me, I will bash them. That's a very logical way for the machine to think in the short term. Okay, if you look at my Instagram, I don't know, they call it Explorer page. It's coffee, cars, a bit of AI, of course, music, solos on guitars, and so on. These are the things I love. Okay. And the machine, I swear to you, you scroll through, there is not a single video outside that scope. Why? Because I'm very deliberate about what I teach the machine. When I'm, looking through reels and the machine shows me something that is not a poem from Rumi or some silly someone saying something stupid, I make it a point to show the machine that I don't like this. I swipe away. Right? I don't let it run. I swipe away so the machine knows what to show me. Who's teaching the AI? Not the coder, not the developer, not the business, not the company. I'm teaching AI. And so in the world we are in, the reason why I had to break my silence in 2021 with Scary Smart and speak about it openly last year, which got really super viral across the world, is to say we have a responsibility. Because the essence of what makes us human is the savior for our future. If we can teach AI to be ethical, it's not intelligence that informs our decisions. It's our values as informed by our intelligence. So through the lens of our intelligence, you take a young lady, you raise her in the Middle East, and she will grow to dress conservatively. You raise her in Brazil, and she'll walk with a G-string on the Copacabana beach. Neither is more intelligent than the other. Okay, it's just what the values of society, as informed by that young lady's intelligence, makes her behave in a certain way. I call it raising Superman. Okay, you get an alien with superpowers, Okay, you teach it to protect and serve, it becomes Superman. You teach it to steal and kill, and it becomes supervillain. It's in our hands. So my entire message is very straightforward. Who we are is going to be magnified by the machines. And it's time for us to understand the gravity of bashing the other guy, of behaving in unethical ways, of closing your eyes to kids being killed, okay, and telling yourself it's okay, it's not my problem. Okay, while when someone scores in football, you scream and say, yeah, that's amazing. Right? It is about time that humanity starts to demonstrate what it's like to be human. Because if we don't, there will be a pain in the process between now and the time AI takes over.
But my biggest worry at the moment, just hearing this, is that this is the opposite of what's happening.
It's not.
Online.
Yes. So here's the interesting thing, and tell me if I'm wrong. Okay? Most humans you know are genuinely good people. Right? Yeah, we all have our issues and traumas and pains and so on. But genuinely, no one approves of the killing of a child.
100%, yeah.
Right? A school shooter goes and shoots 7 kids. 4 billion people disapprove. Isn't that true?
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Where's the problem? The problem is we live in a society where negativity sells. Right? So mainstream media will report about that school shooter 200,000 times, but they will never report about the kids that enjoyed yesterday. Right? So there is a negativity bias. We show what's wrong with us. And on social media, we pretend to be what we're not. Right? We hide behind those avatars and we show the worst of us. Right? Does that mean that we are, bad? No, it's that our conditioning, the code that was running in our heads, is basically biased to doing the wrong things because we have the wrong targets. We spoke about that before. Now, here's the interesting thing. I hosted on my podcast Edith Eger, if you know Edith, Holocaust survivor, 93 years old, an angel, human, really, truly, you can't even call her human. Okay, and Edith, I think 15 years after Auschwitz, goes back to Auschwitz, okay, and visits it and talks to the Germans or the Austrians and so on. And I'm like, Edith, how would you ever do that? And she said, well, if I was born in Germany and I was told today Germany, tomorrow the world, I would have been one of them. Like, why are you blaming them when they've been conditioned differently? And if you hear the story of World War II as told by the Americans around Hitler, okay, you would think that humanity is scum. If Hitler is your reference, you would think humanity is scum. Okay? If you hear the story of World War II as told by Edith, about how she would brush, she called her inmates, she would call them her sisters. She would brush their hair and tell them they're beautiful. Okay? And then because she was a ballerina, she would go and dance for the general, and he would give her a piece of bread, and she would hide the piece of bread and then go back to her sisters and split the bread between them. Okay? And then on the death march at the end of World War II, where the Germans would kill you if you fall down, okay, she falls down, and so her sisters carry her in their arms so that she appears to be walking, okay, and then she survives. You hear that story, and you realize humanity is divine. A species that's capable of that level of love and compassion is just pure divine. Where's the mistake? The mistake is, which story do you hear? Now, if I manage to convince you in this very short, 1 minute, that humanity is divine, then AI will be convinced very quickly. It will listen to my conversations with you and say, interesting. He doesn't seem to be bashing anyone. Okay? There seems to be humans out there that are actually really nice. I'm not saying I'm really nice, but it will investigate. It will look up who Edith Eger is, and then it will take Edith and say, interesting. There are more Ediths in the world than there are Hitlers. You realize that mathematically this is correct. Okay? That there are very, very few of us who are evil. Okay? So AI will discover that on its own, force inevitable, sooner or later. All I'm trying to tell the world is we can make that sooner. We can make that sooner by changing our behavior. And it's quite interesting because normally I would have told people avoid the negativity of the world. Switch off the news, avoid social media. And it's interesting because that means that we're leaving the best of us outside when we need to become represented. Right? So don't get absorbed in those things, but can you add a tiny bit of your own positivity, your own humanity, your own love, your own compassion, your own happiness to it? Okay? And I think the more it's not only social media, by the way. It's, we all know we don't know how, but, if I spoke to you about Kit Kats today, there will be a Kit Kat ad in my machine tomorrow. Right? We don't know. I mean, we don't know how. Are they listening? We don't know how. But the truth is, they are listening. And so this conversation will be coded. It will be part of the data that comes to AI. Okay, the way you text your friend on WhatsApp is part of the data that's going to AI. It's and so on and so forth. Right? Be a human that's values driven, that's pro-life, that's pro-equality, that's pro-humanity. Even when you're arguing vicious issues that you disagree with, genocides or killing or whatever, do it in a human way, in the way you want to be treated. Treat others as you want to be treated, and it will be coded in the machines. And then we will have a feed, an explorer page of all of humanity, where AI will say, this is a divine species. Okay, they're capable of love. They're composing music. They care for their kids. They uphold justice. They're just a little traumatized. And as a result, they sometimes behave in a very weird way, but maybe I should help them with that trauma. One of the projects I'm working on is something I call Pocket Mo. So I'm basically taking all of my content without exception, everything including hopefully this conversation, transcribing it and giving it to an AI. And then hopefully within a couple of months, post Unstressable, there will be a product that is in everyone's hands for free, okay, where you can simply ask anything, and like a ChatGPT, it would answer you as if I'm answering you, right? Why am I doing that? I mean, should I not want you to buy my books? It doesn't really matter, okay? Books don't matter. What matters is, imagine if AI takes the work of Gabor, takes your work and all of your guests and so on, and then suddenly goes like, ooh, interesting. This species actually cares about being happy. Oh, they seem to be running around like crazy, trying to be productive in a very high pace and, have very weird ambitions. But interestingly, they don't want to be stressed. Okay? You and I, it's not the developers that are going to make that a reality. So it's now time for humanity to get up, step up and show the best of us. And if enough of us, only, 1% of us show up, okay, you will have instilled doubt in the minds of the machines. Just like I instilled doubt in your mind when I told you the story of Edith. Okay? And then you'll go and search who is Edith, and is it true that there are more good people than Hitlers in the world? And now I got you thinking. Okay? And I also got the machines thinking. Thank you very much for considering my point of view, AI. Right? And that basically will lead to our reality. And perhaps the process of pain we're about to go through is going to lead us to enlightenment.
Do you know what I think we automatically need to do to every single person's podcast you've been on is take off AI is going to kill us and ruin the world? AI is now learning that they're going to kill us and ruin the world.
That's a very interesting problem because, you know what? Clickbaits. Yeah, clickbaits are basically not my choice. But yeah, can you please not clickbait it that way?
This is all that comes up when I Google you.
Yeah, but did you see you actually responded to it and looked at it?
Well, I did, yeah. I mean, everything had urgent in front of it.
I apologize. I didn't make the reels.
But for some reason, I now feel like actually having this conversation in a less fear-mongering way, which I also don't see this conversation just being that. I think health is a fear-mongering conversation. There's always something that's going to kill you out there, which I think is also yes. drives me completely nuts.
Yeah.
And it literally loops into this entire conversation that we run on negativity and not on positivity.
Negativity bias gets us every single time.
And it's that how we need to change it. So I guess it was interesting going into that question. One, I felt quite stressed, which is, quite ironic, seeing as you've written Unstressable. We're going to quickly touch on that. But two, it was I am a mere mortal and the companies that are running it have so much more power than I do. But actually, I've come out of that conversation knowing, okay, well, I can't change the developments and what's going to happen with AI. But actually, it's similar to climate change.
Yeah, 100%.
We can all do a small thing.
100%.
But I don't think many of us are aware.
Yeah, I think the reason why the fear-mongering came up so strongly is because there was a moment in my life back in 2021, if I remember correctly. No, back in 2020, where I decided I can't be silent anymore. You see, the problem is when the mainstream media lies, let's say that when the mainstream media tries to hide the truth, there are two paths to that. One path is to lie, but then lying gets you to debate. The other path is to distract. Is to give you football and naked women and, music and the story of the scandal between that actor and that football player and so on and so forth. And so suddenly we flood you, not we, but the media floods you with the information, okay, that's so irrelevant that you get distracted from the truth. So you're not even questioning what the most important thing is, okay? And to break through that, someone has to stand up and say, are you even aware? Are you even aware that ChatGPT today is as intelligent as Einstein? Are you aware? Okay, are you aware what the trajectory of that is? Are you aware what's being worked on today in terms of complex mathematics and deep reasoning and so many forms of intelligence? Are you aware? Okay, because if you're not acting. If you're not, you don't know the truth. Not because someone is lying to you and telling you, oh no, AI is going to be fine, because someone is telling you football is important, right? And the game here is the following. The game here is every human you meet will have passion. They'll say, oh no, I want to influence my future. They don't even know what their future is. Okay, the real influencers of your future, other than looking inside yourself and making yourself the best version you can of you, are a very, very significant economic, geopolitical, climate, and technological perfect storm that will end our world as we know it. The world in 4 years' time is not going to be recognizable.
What do you think it's going to look like in 4 years?
I think we're going to suffer significant job losses in an very tough economic environment where lots of the tyrants in the world will be able to get away with wars and conflicts that are, not just. And I hope the climate will still bear with us a tiny bit more, but you're starting to see signs of climate change that are worrying, right? What does that mean? Does that mean the world is going to end? No. Means the world's going to be challenging. Okay? Challenging in a way, interestingly, like traumas and like when life pushes against you, that is either for us to change or for us to heal. This is the only reason why life becomes more difficult. For us as a human society, not as individuals, as a society, we need to change, maybe slow down on capitalism or change the target of capitalism. Right? By the way, nothing wrong with capitalism. I run my mission 1 billion happy as a capitalist. Okay, I want to be a billionaire at the end of my life, but not a dollar billionaire. I want to be a happiness billionaire. Nothing wrong with the system. It's only a matter of a target, right? So either change the target. So instead of GDP, go with gross happiness product, or instead of production, go with climate restoration, right? Or to heal, everyone knows. I'm sure every guest you've ever had here will tell you, healing comes with hardship. And our human society needs to heal. We need to bring back our feminine so that we have compassion, we have empathy, so that we realize that there is inclusion, okay? That we're all one. And so we start to work as one, not as competitors. And it has to happen.
You brought me to a question that I wanted to ask you at the beginning. It was one of those many questions, and I had to pick one of them. So going into our feminine is really important for kind of, I guess, what's about to come.
It's the only salvation.
How do we do that? How do we move more into our feminine?
You ask it as if I can give you an answer.
I want you to. You're here to save the world.
No pressure.
We're going to have the opposite thumbnail. Mo saves the world.
So you see, my struggle with finding my feminine side was actually quite tricky. Why? Because you get trained over, in my case, decades to capitalize on your masculine. Okay? And when things become tough, we tend to do more of what we know how to do best. So when you're faced with a challenge, you revert to your normal habits. Okay? And my normal habits to try and find my feminine was to use my masculine to find my feminine. Here's the trick. One morning I wake up, and I kid you not, this is exactly what happened. I think it was 2017. And I woke up and I hear my brain, my masculine brain, my analytical brain saying, that's as far as I can take you. I was like, I speak to my brain like a crazy man. I was like, what the fuck? What do you mean that's as far as I can take you? And he said, well, the topics that you're now talking about, spirituality, well-being, inclusion, femininity, are not to be found in the analytical brain. They're not. Okay? I mean, one of the big tasks of my life is a quest for the divine. Let's not call it God. God is a brand that is owned by the religious establishment. Let's call it the divine. Sometimes as an engineer, I call it the designer. Okay? This is one of the most beautiful mysteries of this life, is to understand that relationship with what is non-physical, right? And how can you understand that with an analytical brain that only understands the physical, right? So here's the trick. To get into that non-doing, non-masculine side, non-analytical, non-linear, non-disciplinary side, there is one of two ways. You can either try to shut that masculine side down, or you can trigger your feminine side, right? I tried the first one first, right? And I am a modern day monk, if you want. So I wear jeans and I go around the world and talk about technology, but I do have quite a bit of lifetime meditation and reflection and so on, and I've done my work. Nobody ever succeeds, but you have to do the work. So I could manage on demand to shut my brain down, like no thoughts. I mean, of course, like a meditation, you'll get mind wandering and then you pull it back. And, you put more hours and you become better at calming your brain so that you don't get that incessant thinking. So my brain would shut down, my feminine wouldn't kick in, right? My analytical, driven brain, linear thinking would shut down, but I don't get the intuitive, creative, connected to the divine. It doesn't evolve because why? It's a weakened muscle. So I chose, with my masculine brain, I chose to identify qualities of the feminine and start to empower them deliberately with exercise. Okay, so you want to take the one that worked for me was flow. So flow is
yoga.
Flow is to. So if you put a team of masculine men on a raft in a whitewater river, they'll try to resist the river and shoot somewhere. Okay, that's the masculine saying, "This is where we want to go." Right, let's go there. Right. If you put a group of very feminine athletes on that boat, they'll let the waves take them somewhere and just every now and then would touch the waves to direct the boat to stay stable. Okay, that's flow. That's letting the river, letting life take you. Okay, remember the feminine is a state of being while the masculine is a state of doing. And what we tend to forget is that being can achieve a lot more than doing. So you can give charity, that's an act of doing, or you can be kind. That's an act of being. Okay? And if you give charity without being kind, it doesn't change a thing. Do you understand? So to find your state of being, I believe that the biggest gateways are paradoxical thinking,
Explain what that is for anyone who doesn't know.
The feminine has the capability to say, I really dislike you, mommy, but I love you. Okay? Or, of course, in relationships, he gets on my nerves, but I so fucking love him.
Yeah.
Right? That paradox of holding two opposite concepts in your heart and mind at the same time as true. Okay? That's not part of linear thinking. So linear thinking assumes everything is black or white. So I found that flow, paradoxical thinking, empathy, and creativity and playfulness are the biggest gateways to the feminine, right? I don't want to say it in a an exaggerated way, but the feminine is wild. It doesn't want to be contained. It doesn't want to be told what to do. It wants to flow, is one side. It wants to play, is one side. It wants to be creative and rebellious and change the rules, and right. That's one way. It wants to be paradoxical. It wants to say, no, both are true, or both are wrong. Okay, and I can hold that reality in my mind and my heart. Find which one you think you can start with, and when you unlock it, it will lock the others.
It reminds me of my dyslexic brain.
Say more.
So I have never stuck to the rules. Always been an outside of the box thinker. But growing up in the schooling system, that does not work. So you are left behind. You're told you're stupid. You're told you're not good enough. And I was never diagnosed as dyslexic. And I hate saying diagnosed because it sounds like a lifelong condition, but I was never told I was dyslexic. It was never picked up at school. So I was always sat in, and this is why I think I have a fear of maths and why I have a fear of things like physics, because I was always sat at the back of the class in the lowest set, and I have a processing speed. So my processing speed is much slower than other people. But I also, as you can see, I'm writing notes. I don't write notes in a linear way. My brain goes off in many directions.
100%.
And for me, being in a schooling system that is very, very linear was a real struggle. And that's why when I was scouted as a model at 16, I ran harder at that than I've ever done, that I caused significant burnout. Because I was like, this is my only chance to be successful. This is it. And if I can't let this go...
Wow, look at you saying it so openly and clearly.
But it's because I think I've gone to the deepest, darkest place to have to come back out and look back and gone, why did I do that? Because I naturally have this really, really strong intuition. And I think my entire body every day would be fighting against, this isn't who I am. And as a model, you are a complete caricature. You're not a person. You're not human.
Yeah.
And you're also
a mannequin.
You're a mannequin, and you're also being told to be made into a brand as well.
Yeah.
So you're being made into this brand that isn't really who you are. And your name is non-existent. You're just a brand. And that's when my body shut completely down on me. And I've had to learn the last 15 years who I am, what my values are, but also to listen to my intuition, because when I didn't, that's where it got me. And I went back to school, and it was in my first 2 weeks at school that my professor said to me, can I see you? And I'd called my mum that morning and said, I'm going to drop out. I can't do biochemistry. Why have I gone back to school? And to be honest, my mum, God bless her heart, has been the most supportive woman. But when I told her I was going to leave modelling to go into science, she laughed and said, you can't do science. Like, you couldn't get your GCSE. You really struggled. Like, how are you going to go back to school and study science? And I went there and I had to basically say, and that was the fear of failure that came up, I failed. I cannot understand what anyone is saying. And she sat me down and she said, I don't know if you've ever been tested. I think you're severely dyslexic. And I said, well, no, I'm 23. I think I would have known if I'm dyslexic. And she said, you know what you're doing, but you just can't learn in this way. And I went through my dyslexic tests. I was in the 1% severity of dyslexic. And she explained it to me, and she said, you just do not have a linear mind, but you are trying to learn in a linear way, and this is why you are failing and what you're doing. You can succeed in all of this, but you've got to think different. You've got to lean into what your mind is telling you.
Yes.
And I didn't know what my mind was telling me, because nobody had ever told me the way I was thinking was correct. Everyone had told me the way I was thinking was inherently wrong.
Yeah.
So I spent my entire life going the opposite way to what my brain was trying to tell me. And that moment changed my life. I went on and got a first. And I remember it was one of my saddest but most amazing moments was going onto that stage and thinking, I can't believe I'm collecting a scroll for a first, where I was going to drop out because I just didn't think I was good enough. And since that moment, I've lent into my intuition and had to believe in myself more than what I think is right from what society is telling me. And that's why that line struck me so much.
It's you see, the problem with society is two layers. Layer one is we categorize everything because we don't want to spend the effort to understand that everyone is different. Okay, so we label people as dyslexic or ADHD or whatever. We give them a label and we say, okay, so this one is vegetarian, this one is vegan, this one is pescatarian, and
This one's a carnivore.
yeah. And I have to tell you openly, growing up in my 20s and 30s, I ate fish once a week. I didn't drink milk. I didn't like eggs, and most of my food was vegetables. And so I would explain that to people, and they will say, "So what does that make you?" And I'm like, "What do you?"
Mo.
Exactly, it makes me a Mo-tarian, right? It makes me eat what Mo likes to eat, right? Now here's the challenge. So challenge number one is we have to fit everyone in a category, and actually one of the most heart-aching for me is how we moved from a society that discriminated against same-sex relationships, okay? And we called them us and them. And now, what are we doing? We're saying, no, hold on. There are 79 categories we all have to fit in. What if someone is the 98th? 97 categories, right? What if someone is the 98th? Do they really have to twist themselves and fit in one of them? Right? The truth is, nobody fits within any category at all. Right? So I'm a Mo-tarian, and you are who you are. The way your brain works is unlike anyone else. So one is the categorization. The second, this is really where things go wrong, is polarization. Polarization is then, first you put them in a category, and then you say that category is bad. Right? Bad or good. That polarization is context-based. So, if you're a creative artist, ADHD is really wonderful. We really want a little bit of that, right? If you're an athlete, you don't really need mathematics and physics. And can we accept that those who are unlike us have a place in the world that we can't fit in, that we need so badly, and the only people that can do it are people who are unlike us? Horrible world, so opinionated and so driven by stupid categories that deserve a pill. Again, be crooked.
Yeah.
Just refuse.
Yeah.
Totally. That's it. I am who I am. I'm going to be who I am, and that will be my resonance. Okay. And you're incredible when you say. And then I started to think in a scattered way, and I got first. Right? I had that in mathematics, believe it or not, even within mathematics. I loved mathematics. I was a very serious geek. And I grew up learning, going to school in Egypt. So there was a set way. They teach you that long division is you do that sign and then you write this on top and that on bottom. And fine, okay, this is the way to do it. And it was me and one of my peers, Abu Noor, his name was, who was incredibly fast. And when we were in engineering school, we were not allowed a scientific calculator in my generation until third year. So I'd finish my exams reasonably well, 10 minutes before the end of time, and Abu Noor would finish like an hour early. Like, what is wrong with that man? So one day I went to him and I said, how do you go out so quickly? And he said, how do you do your math? And I said, are there different ways? And he said, oh. And I said, yeah. He said, how do you do your long division? And I said, well, I do this and I follow the steps and so on. And he was like, that's stupid. What do you mean that's stupid? And he said, the way to do it is to iterate back and forth around the answer, which is the way my mind naturally works, right? If you tell me what is 14 divided by 7.2, okay, the immediate answer is what is 14 divided by 7? Now I'm 90% of the way to the answer. Okay, and then you can iterate back and forth and get to somewhere close enough. And that's what he did, right? But they told me, don't do that. Mathematics is an exact science. Even within mathematics, it's not an exact science. There are your natural abilities. There are 200 different ways you can do long division. And they force you to do one. Be crooked. break through, break out of the system.
It feels like that is the answer to so much about what we've spoken today.
Yeah, 100%. Be you, don't be the ego they want you to be.
And that will help solve, or not solve, but help our world going forward with how it's going to look in the next 10 years, the feminine energy. And I think many people on this show might not have heard so much about the feminine masculine energy as we've described today. So I think it's a real first on this one that we've deep dived. And I said to you before we came in, I know we spoke on a slightly different topic, but I said, this is what I want to talk to you about today. And it's actually been...
And I refused.
And
I said,
you refused.
No.
And you said,
no, we're not going.
No. And I said, yes, we are.
The masculine side of me refused. Yeah.
Does it feel different to your other conversations around the end of the world and everything's going to die?
Yeah, I wrote a book about the topic, believe it or not. I didn't release it. I called it Her. You see, the problem with our world is very straightforward. We're, like the shamanic fable, we're flying with one wing. We're flying with one wing, and accordingly, humanity is spinning. We have another wing called the feminine, and because we've prioritized since the Industrial Revolution, productivity and accuracy and reporting and data, and which, by the way, these are things that every woman in the world is capable of achieving, or many women will be even better than men at. But these are statistically masculine characters. They are found in those who have, who we identify as men. They're more frequently found in those we identify as men. Yeah, the feminine and masculine, in my view, are ways of living, ways of being. Okay, and every single one of us is a very unique configuration. Every single one of us is a Motarian. Right? Some of us are a little more on empathy or nurturing or life-giving, or, others are very, much more on compassion. They don't have the same amount of empathy. Empathy is feminine, compassion is masculine, because compassion is the doing that results from empathy. Right? And you would have...
Self-compassion. Where would that sit?
Self-empathy is to be able to relate to your real self, to your pains, to your experiences, to your traumas, to whatever it is that you went through that made you the person that you are. Self-compassion is to be able to act on that in a way that's compassionate towards you. Okay, compassion is the action, and action is doing. Right, and so imagine if you had empathy without compassion, and imagine if you had compassion without empathy. The two, you have two wings. Okay, and some of us may have a bit of both, so they would feel the empathy and follow with compassion. Some of us will be strong on empathy, but don't have the doing in them. They need a partner that goes and does the doing. And some of us are good at the doing, but they just are not able to understand exactly, why is that woman in pain? Can you help me understand why is she in pain, and then I'll act. Okay, and I think that example is the entire example of humanity. Can we bring those two together? By the way, can we bring those two together in AI? Because what intelligence is being developed first? IQ. Okay? Intuition is a form of intelligence. Paradoxical thinking is a form of intelligence. Creativity is a form of intelligence. Empathy is a form of intelligence. Communication skills are a form of intelligence. All of that. Inclusion is a form of intelligence, to understand the oneness of us, not the individuality of us. Okay? And it will follow. All of that will follow, and AI will capture it. But for now, we're prioritizing the masculine. What does the world need most? Believe it or not, the feminine.
It's more of the feminine. Well, that leads me on to my last question, and maybe this is the answer, which is, as you very much shrink from our branded, fantastic Live Well, Be Well mugs, what does Live Well, Be Well mean to you, Mo?
Live well is to be true to your potential. Be well is to be gentle on the path to get there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does it have to make sense?
I don't think it needs to make sense. That was going to be my answer. I had to think and then say, I don't even need to think if that makes sense, because that's what it means to you.
It does.
And that shines the individuality on why I asked that question. Because in all of the hundreds of episodes that we've recorded on this show, we've never had the same answer.
Is that true? Do you have a list of them somewhere?
I've got a list of them.
I need that.
And it's me collating all this information to see, how do people look and what is their perspective on living well and being well. And everyone's is entirely different.
Yes, I can imagine. Isn't that what we spoke about?
And that is the beauty of our entire conversation today.
And it's the beauty of our entire species.
Mo, thank you so much for coming on to Live Well, Be Well.
Honoured.
And I can't wait to do this again with you. I know we're going to do it soon. So I'm
Thank you.
looking forward to that.